Welcome to Demand and Disrupt the Disability Podcast. Here, we will learn to advocate for ourselves and each other. This podcast is supported with funds from the Advocado Press, based in Louisville, Kentucky. Hello, welcome. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to Demand and Disrupt a Disability Podcast. Today, we've got a treat for you. We're going to be talking to Keith Hosey, a longtime disability advocate. That's what he's been doing his whole life. His whole working career is advocating for the rights of people with disabilities. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about parenting, like we do. That's usually how we start, and some genetic stuff about Keith's disability and how that impacted it. And then we're going to talk about mental health. And since we're right here in the thick of the holidays, I think it's a good time just to remind everyone to, take care of yourself. It's tough out there. It's true what they say. Put your own oxygen mask on first. You can't take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself. So do that for yourself. It's not surrender. It's not weak. It's the grown-up, mature thing to do. Take care of yourself first. Take care of other people. But, look after yourself. When you've done too much, say that's it. The perfect gift does not exist. The perfect food, well, I don't know. I made a really awesome banana pudding, but you know what I'm saying. Banana pudding is probably not the best way to take care of yourself, but feed your soul. That's what I say. So here we go with Keith Hosey. Okay, welcome, Keith Hosey. Tell me about yourself, Keith.
Hi, thanks for having me. I am a 40-something white male. I go by he, him. I have short brown buzzed hair and a short beard, which is also mostly brown now, though there's a little bit of gray creeping in. And I am a dad and a husband, and I am a scuba diver, though I haven't been in a while. And I have some disabilities, and I was in this book that you might know about. So I was asked to come on and talk to you, Kimberly.
Yes. And I'm glad you did finally, because I reached out to you like second, and it's taken us this long, all these many months.
I am so sorry. My schedule was very busy for a little while. Thankfully, it has died down, but in the interim, I've had the pleasure to listen to your earlier episodes, and I love the podcast so far. I might be iffy on this episode.
No, thank you for saying that. We're having a good time. It's wonderful to me to get to tell these stories, especially of parents, because I just don't think there was a lot out there before the book, which is, as I always need to mention the title, A Celebration of Family, Stories of Parents with Disabilities. And it was put together and edited by our favorite Dave Mathis, who we do love dearly. So,
yes.
Now, Keith, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because you and I share some genetic disadvantages, which kind of had to come into play when we were deciding whether or not to have kids. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So I was born with severe bilateral club feet. That's the diagnosis. It is a genetic disability, and there is a chance to pass it on. It was passed to me from both sides of the family. One uncle, one of my dad's brothers, also has club feet, and one of my mom's uncles had club feet. So it combined into me and like the Wonder Twins to create my situation. So when we were talking about thinking about having a child, that was certainly one of the things that went into our conversation is, will this child also be born with club feet? We don't know. So luckily for me, this wasn't too long ago, and there were already lots of groups on the internet and even some groups on Facebook at the time. And I found community. I found other people with my condition, my specific condition, club feet. and they were all different ages and with all different experiences and severities. And I talked to some of them a little bit about it, and from them I got some good information. And eventually my wife and I decided, that shouldn't even be a factor in our decision of having a child, because of course we'd love our child with a disability. It wouldn't impact any quality of life that we could see. So it almost became a moot point at a certain time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot the same. I mean, my chapter in the book is called Everything in Life is a Roll of the Dice. So I think that tells you how the way we went with that too. So in retrospect, when you're going through it though, making that decision, it is gut wrenching, isn't it?
It is, because you can't have that discussion without deep introspection onto your own life, and the struggles you may have. I'll speak for myself, and the struggles that I had growing up. I had somewhere around a baker's dozen of surgeries from when I was 6 weeks old until the last one, which I was a sophomore in high school. So, and the thought of having a child have to go through something like that was more in my decision making than the thought of having a child with some type of disability. And so some of what I did was do some research into current treatments of club feet, because, hey, it was 30 years later and surely someone's figured something out. And there are new treatments and different treatments. And, I think that, again, it just kind of made sense that why are we even worrying about this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's, I always say when we talk about this is my choice does not have any bearing on anyone else's choice, and their choice shouldn't have any bearing on mine. I always say that. The choice being the operative word there. And I want to kind of pivot and talk about disability pride, because you said something. I did not realize that disability pride was a hot topic.
It's a great topic.
There's people got issues. I mean, they people have views about this. I both ways.
Sure.
So it's like you said, you didn't want your child to go through, and let us say you did have a beautiful, healthy daughter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct.
Yes. So, spoiler alert, it all turned out fine in the end.
And it would have, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, either way, it would have turned out fine in the end. But Keith has a beautiful daughter, Kayla. Is that her name?
Her name is Kayla, and she fools a lot of people into thinking that she is sweet. But she is definitely a 9-year-old girl.
Oh, they're tricky at that age. Oh, they are tricky.
I love her very much, though.
So much love for your kids. But you said you wouldn't want your child to go through that. And same here. My daughter has had 3 surgeries on her eyes already. So I wouldn't trade her for nothing at all. But a lot of people who I talk to who are disabled, and I ask them about disability pride, and they say no, they would not consider themselves. That is not a label that they would wear. Disability is not a label that they wear proudly. And I think the thinking is because if they could choose, they would choose not to be disabled.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about, because you're pretty open about disability pride. Can you
talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. First of all, you're giving away all of our inside secrets to the non-disabled. They're not supposed to know we would all choose to not be disabled. Come on. No, and in all seriousness, I think that's actually a true statement, because if you ask me tomorrow, I live with chronic pain. I would want that to go away. I have migraines. I have depression. I have anxiety. Heck yeah, if I could snap my fingers and make that go away, I would. But that doesn't mean that I'm not proud to be a member of the disability community. And that's where I think the hang up there is I'm not necessarily proud of my disabilities, because they bring me challenges and sometimes pain and lots of times, as you know, financial costs.
Amen to that. Yeah.
It is not cheap to be disabled, right?
So not cheap. So not cheap.
Yeah, but it's not so much that, but it's a sense of community and being proud of the community that we could have and do have around our disability identity, the subculture that exists not only just generally around disability, but you even have subcultures within our subculture. You have deaf culture. You have blind culture. Is a little, it's different things. You have the autistic community. They have their own cultural things going on, and it's all just, I think, really cool. And the people that miss it because they don't see us all as people, they're missing really beautiful stuff, movies. And I mean, the first time I ever saw a deaf storyteller, it was amazing to see them work. We have just amazing stories within our community too. We have a rich history. Unfortunately, a lot of that history is fighting for our rights, and fighting for space and fighting for equity and inclusion. But even within those fights, you find community and pride. You look at the sit-in in San Francisco in 1977, and you have all different types of people with all different types of disabilities united to get pressure on the government. And that's when I talk about disability pride, or when and I can only speak for myself, but from what I've seen, there are many other people out there. Chicago has a disability pride parade every year. So, it's not just like Keith Hosey's idea. I'd steal it from many other disabled advocates, but it's this idea that we have community, and we should see the bright spots in our community.
Yeah. As soon as, the first, I think I told you before, I had a kid 14 years ago, had my son 14 years ago. And honestly, I just never got any more information till last week or something. It's just, I was so focused on, the parenting that I just missed a lot. But when I got back into reading about, disability culture and where were we and things, that was the first time I had heard the phrase disability pride. And I have to tell you, it absolutely stirred something in me that, damn, this is a thing now,
Yes.
and it was amazing. And I was like, yeah, I am proud to be in this community, because I met you, I met Carissa, who we've had on the show, so many awesome people. I know so many people's histories, and it's not the overcoming thing, it's not the inspo porn of
right.
oh, it's this group of people who've done so much in such terrible circumstances. It's not that. It's just this group of people. I've had to, as you can tell, I have had to search my own thoughts about this. And so I think, okay, what is the opposite of pride? And the opposite of pride, as best I can tell, is shame.
Mm-hmm.
And shame is what they want us to have.
Absolutely.
And I'm not doing that. And I don't want my daughter to see that. So if the opposite of pride is shame, then heck yeah, I'm proud.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that went some places, didn't it?
Well, I think that was awesome. And you touched on something too, as a mother with a disability, raising a child with a disability. How you raise that child makes all the difference. Sandra, who is one of the chapters in our book.
Yes. I talked to Sandra.
She is an amazing individual, not because she's blind and she did all the things she did. She's just like a really cool person. And
Absolutely.
I've gotten to learn her story a little more. I've done a couple panels with her. And then I had her do a spot for me at work. And her parents were blind and her dad worked his whole life. And his expectation was that his blind daughter would work when she was old enough to work. And George W. Bush coined it, something about the slow prejudice of low expectations. And part of disability pride is saying that we can be part of community. We can be 100% part of the community if we have the right supports and if the barriers are brought down,
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, we'll teach people how to do community. We'll teach compassion. We'll teach other people how to, how to bring people in fully to community. So, yeah. And, you mentioned having chronic migraines and things. And it seems to me like sometimes that may be, it's extra disability. It's other stuff that you have, that sometimes that might be more disabling to you than the genetic issue.
Sometimes it is. It's like a fight between them sometimes. Who wants to control my life the most? So yeah, no, it is. I do have chronic pain as a result of my last surgery that I had on one of my feet, and I do deal with that every day, of course. But there are days where if I get a migraine, he gets front of the class. Like, he's in the limo and everyone else is on the curb because that's all I can deal with. So that, yeah, when I get one of those migraines, I'm out for hours, if not the whole day, and everything else is secondary at that point. Doesn't matter if if I'm having a depressive episode, it doesn't matter if my foot hurts. The migraine's front seat.
And so how does that impact your parenting?
It has impacted my parenting because there have been times where I just could not function other than taking care of the acuteness of my condition at that point. And I think Kayla adapted to it pretty well. Little kids scream and are loud and make lots of noise. And at a very young age, she learned. I actually didn't develop my mental health conditions until she was actually born. She was maybe 2 or 3. But even at 5 or 6, she knew Daddy's head hurts. I need to be quiet because it really hurts. And there were times where, Daddy didn't go to the zoo with them because he had a migraine that day or something. So, it's impacted it in that way. Thankfully, I am now actually on a new migraine medicine that I can take when I get one, and it does a good job of knocking it down enough that I can function. But
That is great.
Yeah, there was a time where that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm. I have just, heard of people having migraines. They sound truly, truly just dreadful, just debilitating, right? I mean,
and they're also different, because, for example, mine, I feel it throughout my body. I actually, I know a migraine is coming on because limbs will go numb sometimes, or I'll get a tingling, kind of like the Spidey sense from Spider-Man. I'll get a tingling on the back of my neck, and I'll know that, I have a migraine coming on.
Yeah. Yeah. You said that little kids make lots of noise. It does not stop. My 14-year-old son is noisy, just noisy. All the things he does are noisy. His gadgets are noisy. Lots and lots of noise.
It's just a different noise, right?
It's just a different noise, but it's not any lower. Exactly. So, so good luck.
Thank you.
So last thing I want to talk about is I do want to find out, tell me all about ADAPT and explain that for our listeners who might not know what ADAPT is, because super cool ADAPT is.
So ADAPT, speaking of disability history, ADAPT,
it stands for something new now, right? Something different.
You're right. Yes. So, and I'm searching for the letters. So ADAPT, they used to be all about public transportation. That's what the PT was, an ADAPT. And in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, ADAPT organized, and they're all about direct action. And they, throughout across the country, they started in Colorado. And then throughout the country, they started blocking buses to get accessible buses. This was before the ADA. Some of them would chain themselves to buses, or they would just park their wheelchairs right all around the bus so that the bus could not move. We had that happen in Louisville. Arthur Campbell was one of those people in Louisville that blocked the bus.
Huge shout out to Arthur Campbell. He wants to be on the podcast, so we are working on it.
One of my favorites. I love
absolutely.
Arthur. So now they are more focused on attendant care and access to attendant care, but it's a national organization that has local chapters that are about advocacy, and that are kind of like our radical wing. They're not afraid to show up and block doorways and demand answers. So I have a dream to bring ADAPT to Kentucky, because we don't have a chapter here in Kentucky.
Wow. So how close are you? Because I'm in for that. Count me in. I want to help with that.
If any of our listeners have about $10,000.
Ooh, so we're going that way, are we?
Well, I will tell you, this has just been something that I've worked on since, I don't know if you remember, 2017, they called it the Summer of ADAPT. Essentially, ADAPT saved the ACA that summer. They were
really
the Congress was working to repeal a number of parts and basically just gut it. And ADAPT showed up. They showed up in DC, and they showed up at their local places. And I just remember I knew of ADAPT, and I had heard stories of the old days of, Arthur blocking the bus on Chestnut Street. But then to see these people protesting in DC right outside of Mitch McConnell's office, being carried out of their wheelchairs for all of our health care. And I have a friend who is involved with ADAPT in Alaska. Alaska was instrumental with Senator Murkowski and getting those couple people to decide not to get rid of the ACA. And ADAPT essentially saved the ACA that summer. And then I thought, we should have had ADAPT here in Kentucky. We should have been at our senators and our representatives' offices fighting for this.
Yeah. And the ACA, of course, is the Affordable Care Act.
Yes, I'm sorry. So ever since then, I've just been talking to people about it. Wouldn't it be cool if this happened? Why don't we do this? There's problems. And I want every tool in the belt. You don't always need the blunt end, but you want every option out there when you're advocating. And so we have some interested individuals, and we've had a couple Zoom meetings over the last couple months. We've reached out, we've spoken to some individuals with National ADAPT, and essentially, we're working towards it. So hopefully one day, and when I say bring ADAPT to Kentucky, that's not outside people. That's us being trained and starting a chapter and doing direct actions.
Mm-hmm. So if anybody wants to help out or wants to find out more, they can email us here at demandanddisrupt@gmail.com, and I'll forward that on to you. Sound good?
That sounds fantastic.
And if anyone wants to send checks, that's wonderful. Send money, right? Also great.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Keith, that is all I have to talk about. It's been great. You're always wonderful to talk to. Best wishes. I hope we get ADAPT in Kentucky and start making some differences there. So thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Kimberly.
Thanks, Keith, for joining us and for looking into getting a chapter of ADAPT started here in Kentucky. And to you listening, Keith wanted me to mention that the $10,000 he mentioned would be nice, but that is in no way required by ADAPT to start a chapter. It's just that, organization takes money and mailings take money. Things take money to get something off the ground. And we want to get ADAPT off the ground. We want it to be successful. So if you're interested, there's a link to ADAPT in the show notes where you can check out what they've done and see more about them. And also, send me an email at demandanddisrupt@gmail.com, and I will forward that on to Keith. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks to Chris Unkin for our theme music. Thanks to Steve Moore for providing our transcription. Support comes from the Center for Accessible Living in Louisville, Kentucky. And you can find links to buy the book, A Celebration of Family, Stories of Parents with Disabilities, in our show notes. Thanks, everyone.
Just for once, I think I would agree. We both know there's a difference. We've had our curtain call. This time the writing's on the wall. but each and every letter spells out the need for us to open